Our next presentation for this morning is entitled Effect of Irrigation Levels on Peanut Production and Profitability. Jung Song is our presenter.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cheng Song. I'm a PhD student at Texas Tech University. And today my topic is the effect of irrigation levels on peanut production and profitability. So here's a little bit of the background of Ogallala Aquifer. Ogallala Aquifer is one of the biggest underground water sources in the world, and it is depleting fast and poses significant long-range challenge to agriculture. Peanut is one of the most important crops in the southern highland areas that relies on the Ogallala Aquifer as the most important water source for irrigation. So it becomes an interesting and also important topic to think about if we can develop some new peanut varieties that are tolerant to drought and still can make the local peanut growers profitable. So this is the outline of the presentation today. So I'll be talking about the experimental design of this project. And then as for the results, we can look at the effect on the pod yield and also on the seed quality and grade. And then I'll be talking about the economic analysis based on grade and market price. So the experimental design used in this project is the RCBD with split plots. And there are three fixed effects used in this model, including 3 irrigation levels, that is high, mid, and low, which are 75%, 50%, and 25% ET replacement, respectively. And also there are 2 growth habits in this model, including the spreading and erect type. So the spreading type, including Runner and Virginia, these 2 market types. And as for the erect type, it includes the Spanish and Valencia, these 2 market types. And in this project, we use 22 genotypes. And there's another random effect we use here. So we have 3 replicates within each irrigation level. So for the irrigation treatment, we use the center pivot in USDA ARS in Lubbock. And the soil type here is sandy clay loam, and also we irrigate the plants during 42 to 110 days after planting. So from the figure at the right side, you can see that the high irrigation were performed in the area of the green, and the low irrigation were performed in the red area, while the mid irrigation were treated in between the high and low irrigation areas. So here's the results of the ANOVA of the yield. So from the table here, we can see that 3 of the fixed effects in here, including the irrigation, growth habit, and genotype, these 3 effects have significant effect on the pod yield among 3 years. So I'll be talking about a little bit of these 3 fixed effects separately. The first one is the yield by irrigation level. So from both the bar graphs and the table here, we can see that in 2016, there's a significant difference of the yield from both the high and low irrigation, but as for the mid irrigation, we didn't see a significant difference between the mid and high. And as for 2017, we see a significant difference between the high and low irrigation, but there's no significant difference from the mid and low. And for 2018, we see significant differences between each of the 2 treatments. And the second fixed effect is the growth habit. So for the results of the yield by growth habit, there are 2 growth habits, spreading and erect type. So we see that consistent results show spreading type has a higher yield comparing to the erect type. among 3 years here, which fit our expectation. And this is the result of the yield by genotype. And since genotype in this model is nested in the growth habit, which we have 2 growth habits, so I separate the spreading and the erect type into 2 different tables. So this page is only for the spreading type. And from this table, so I sort this data by the mean, the last column, the mean. And after I sort this data, we can see that these 4 genotypes that I circled in red have pretty nice yield comparing to many of the other genotypes, including some mini-core accessions and some Czech varieties. And for the erect type table here, I also sort them by the mean. And from the results here, we can see that 3 genotypes I circled, including 2 mini-core accessions and 1 breeding line here, have the pretty nice yield comparing to the other some other Czech varieties also. And so yield is not the only component that would influence the profitability of the peanut. So we also want to look at the seed grades, because seed grades is also important for the value. So here's how I did the seed grading. So after the pods were shelled, so I put all the seeds onto 3 different sizes of the screen, and all the seeds fallen on the screens are called some mature kernel, SMK, and the other ones that fallen through the screens can be categorized into SS, which is sound splits, VD is the visible damage, and OKs are the other kernels, which are mostly immature seeds. And so we weigh all these different categories and also weigh the shell. And also from all the SMK seeds, we randomly pick 100 seeds to get the 100 seed weight. And then so here's the results of the ANOVA of yield, grade, and revenue. So at the left side of the table here are the results of the yield, which we already discussed just now. And at the right side are the grades, which is the percent TSMK, total sound mature kernel, also called shell out rate, and the 100 seed weight in gram, and the revenue, which is the value per acre. So these data were obtained from the 2016 high and low irrigation data. And from here, from this table, we notice that these 3 that I circled, which includes the 3 fixed effects, irrigation, growth habit, and the genotypes. So these 3 effects still keep a significant effect to the of the model. And here's something that is interesting that I circled in blue. So for the irrigation cross genotype, this one is significant in 2016 for the yield. And also, if you look at the right side, because I used the 2016 high and low irrigation samples for the grades. And we noticed that the 100 seed weight and revenue are also significant in this, in the irrigation by genotype. So I'll be talking about the ones that are circled in red, the revenue of the irrigation cross genotype. So here's the grading results by irrigation and growth habits. And as we can see at the top side, the top part of the table is the irrigation, and all the results showed a significant higher yield and grades data from the high irrigation comparing to the low irrigation, which fit our expectations. And for the lower part, which is the growth habits, we noticed that except the shell out rate, except the percentage of TSMK, all others showed a significant higher results of the spreading type comparing to the erect type. but this one that I circled in red is reverse, which the erect type has a higher, significantly higher percent TSMK comparing to the spreading type. And if we look at the how we calculate for the percent TSMK, and then we can consider that the possible reason is that because most of the erect type has a shorter growing season, which they can have more mature seeds, which means they can have a higher percentage of SMK comparing to the spreading type. So this might be the reason. And for the results of the grading by genotype, again, I separate the spreading and erect type into two different tables. And here I sort by the yield, and the results show that I circled these 4 genotypes because these 4 genotypes, including 3 breeding lines and 1 mini-core, that have pretty nice yield performance. And also, if you look at the last column, the revenue, these 4 genotypes perform pretty well on their revenue. Since revenue is one of the things that we want to focus on because that influence the profitability for the local peanut growers. So this 4 genotypes shows a pretty nice performance overall, including their yield and revenue. And as for the erect type here, I also sort by the yield. And then if we look at here, these 3 genotypes that I circled, including 2 mini-cores and 1 breeding line, they have pretty nice yield for the top 2, the 2 mini-core accessions. Sorry, for the second one, the second genotype, the 650. But if we look at the revenue, the top 2 mini-core accessions perform pretty well on their revenue. Then the reason why I circled the 3rd genotype, that breeding line, is because if you look at the second column, the percent TSMK, it performs the best among all genotypes, including comparing to the spreading type. So then the last one, the last result we want to see is the revenue by irrigation cross genotype. This is pretty interesting because the revenue is what we really want to see regarding to the profitability. So here I sort by the last column, the revenue of the low irrigation, because we want to see if any of the genotype performs well on the revenue when it's under drought stress. So and here I didn't really separate the erect type, but I still keep them in the same table because that way you can see this 5 erect type performs, some of the erect type performs pretty nice, even comparing to the spreading type for their revenue. So here I circled these 2 at the top, which they have very nice revenue in the low irrigation. These 2 are Virginia type. And this one I circled is a runner type that performs very nice within among all the runner types. And the last one that I circled here is the best performance in the Spanish type. So the discussion and future work here is that some breeding lines and mini-core accessions have potential to be released or used as a breeding materials for drought-tolerant peanut varieties that are still profitable under water deficit, including those ones that I circled from the previous page. So I would say for the future work, I would like to calculate the gross margin. It will be estimated as the total revenue minus the total cost. So thank you. The acknowledgement to the Ogallala Aquifer, funded by USDA ARS Research Institution and the National Peanut Board.
Okay, thank you for this presentation. And we have time for a couple questions. The first question we have comes from Dr. Charles Cheng. And the question is planting density the same for both growth habits? It may be a confounding factor for your yield.
Yes, so in this project, we have all the same planting density.
Okay. All right, and that's the time we have for questions. So thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.